Hello, Councillor Evans. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm looking in the wrong camera. That would help. Now, Nathan, I wonder, can you actually explain, first of all, because Altrincham's very much been at the forefront of this debate at the moment, with the uproar over the Cresta Court Hotel being used to house 300 asylum seekers, debatable, but while claims have actually been made about private healthcare for migrants and actually the local services that you provide as a council, I wonder if you might explain why you, in particular, before I play a clip of what happened in the hall that you hired for this discussion, why have you been so vocal about this particular issue? You know, is this you just electioneering? Have you got elections in May? Or is this you deeply conscious of the fact that there is a great injustice being done on your constituents?
So, firstly, thank you for having me on, and thank you for highlighting this topic, which is the whole town, the whole of Trafford is passionate about. So no, we're not electioneering. We have no elections next year. We don't have a general election, as we all know, unfortunately, for at least another 4.5 years. We're stuck with what we've got. So it's not electioneering. It's just I have been contacted by hundreds of people. People stop me in the street and say, thank you for standing up for us on this cause. The councillors in the area have not stood up for the residents, and the residents' voices are just muted. They're not interested in hearing what the residents have got to say. So I've simply taken their voices and amplified them and asked the questions that the council, the MP, the other councillors that are not Conservatives are refusing to hear from the residents.
Yeah. All right. Well, you've made clear that you are going to force that conversation, and you did bring about that conversation, despite, cancellations of events that you'd organised in the past. Because I actually found you one of your videos while I was scrolling through Facebook, and I saw that you had an event cancelled, and you said, right, I ain't giving up, and I'm going to make sure that people do have their voices heard. And this is what happened when you actually did manage to get people gathered together to be heard.
And there's things like the input to hospitals, doctors, dentists, the facilities we have. We're already fairly stretched, I feel, in the area. Is that going to be something?
So my understanding is they've contracted with GoDoc, which I think is sort of nighttime service. It's a private doctor's system. And my understanding, that's not a statement of fact. But that should mean they won't be putting weight on our local
the local surgeries or the local doctors.
That's crazy. We're on 3 years waiting list at the hospital, and we're finding out that our service that's given to taxpayers in the UK isn't good enough. And they're in Trafford. Are they really seriously on
Again, well, let's find out. I think it's important. Is it a burden on us? Is the council paying for that? I know the council are getting some funding to support this. I know it's inadequate.
Now, I mean, on that point of inadequacy of funding and all the rest of it, the point is, right, no one wants this. That if you ask the public, I bet you, if you were to poll your constituents, the public anger and the fact that, the police were stood there basically saying, oh, well, you're probably all safe, but no guarantees, because the vetting of many of these people can't be done in an adequate way, that actually it's enraging people to the point of wanting to spit blood. I mean, it's doing a real disservice to community cohesion and actually the unity of us as a democracy, isn't it?
Well, it is. So we run these online petitions every now and again, and they get reasonable response. We're over 4,000 in about 6 days. That is unheard of in a small community petition. We're going to take that to the Home Office next week and deliver it on behalf of the residents. The residents are incandescent, basically. They are on edge. The town feels a little bit on edge. Nobody quite knows what's happening. Total blank from the council. total blank from the Home Office. We've written 2 letters to the Home Office, not even an acknowledgement. So we will keep banging on and getting the answers because people are frightened, concerned, worried about the spend, not sure when it's going to end. It's a difficult time for residents.
And the frustration that was voiced by the residents when one of the police inspectors actually suggested that previous groups of migrants have caused no issues. And, locals argue that actually that's it's a false comparison. I mean, do you agree with that? And ultimately, is the answer here that the fact is nobody wants these people here, so they shouldn't be here, and that if the government actually delivered what the people wanted, they would start deportations?
I suppose in a way that is correct, but we've not had a hotel of male asylum seekers in Trafford. We've got a hotel of 116 family members, not the same family, but you get the point there. If you've got a mother, father, child, mother, 2 children, totally different scenario to 300 or 296 males, unattached, nothing to do. And to say that the risk in Altrincham hasn't increased can't be right. The residents know it's not right, but that's what we're getting from the council, that's what we're getting from the MP, and that's what we're getting from the Home Office. So until we get some proper answers as to what the checks are that's been done, what are the checks that prove that? The residents just don't believe what they are being told.
We've had people come into this country, and this isn't me, spouting conspiracy theory. This is, you can go look through the court system. We've had people arrive here illegally over the English Channel who have committed murder in Europe, and we haven't been able to actually check that, verify that, and they've gone on to commit a murder in this country. There was an aspiring Royal Marine who springs to mind quite often, who lost his life at the hands of a blade from an illegal migrant who had shot someone to death abroad. And the fact of the matter is, how can any of the residents actually guarantee that that won't happen to their communities, to their sons, to their daughters? It's about accountability and it's about transparency. And I just feel that the council, but also the government in general, the Labour government, they're not being open with people, and they're being, dare I say, deliberately, misleading.
I think it's unfair to say these people have been checked to our residents without actually saying, and this is how they have been checked. There is no confidence. And just to say it's platitudes, and we are pursuing that and will not stop pursuing that because it is false and unfair for the town. It's going to harm business. People don't want to walk anywhere. Kids going to school. It's a difficult time. Every resident with a young child, honestly, is worried.
And you might put up council tax, right? Because the Labour Party are saying that they're going to raise the cap, so you can put up council tax by 5%. That's just come out tonight. Why should people pay more council tax for foreigners with no right to be here?
Well, I would agree. And it's not just 5%, Darren, is it? It's 5% plus the 2% social care levy. So it's currently capped in Trafford at 4.99%. As you say, that's gone. So it's now 4.99, 6.99 without a referendum. So they will take that money. There is no doubt. But for what? We are getting less. The money's being mismanaged. And it's the residents are just being taken for a ride.
I mean, the point there that really got people's back up, and I'm sure you know that you did go viral on the old internet, but the point that got people's back up was the fact that they can't, and I get messages from people all the time saying, Darren, I can't get access to a dentist, an NHS dentist. They say, Darren, I'm on a waiting list for NHS treatment. I mean, I know for a fact that my own grandmother had a hip operation scheduled that was cancelled, delayed, and ultimately she had to go on in pain until it was eventually done. But why should residents like that in this country, who have always paid their fair share, always worked damn well hard, they're struggling right now, their employers are going through it because of this Labour budget, why should they watch and stand by idly with their fingers in their ears or maybe over their eyes with watching through the cracks of their fingers, whilst illegal migrants get a standard of healthcare that you would expect of those living in Chelsea, and not those who have come here over on a small boat from Calais. You know, it strikes me as a deep injustice more than anything else.
Well, there's no doubt there is a different contract being taken out by the Integrated Care Board here in order to provide health services to this hotel.
So
now,
wrong.
Interestingly, maybe it takes the lid off the whole thing nationally, in that potentially every hotel in the country has got its own different doctor service. We've had our minor injuries unit closed here. We campaigned on it and campaigned on it and campaigned on it. And Labour, well, they actually came out, one of them said they're too wealthy to need a minor injuries unit. It's more spend the money elsewhere, which is so the level of prejudice towards our area is difficult to comprehend. So we've lost our minor injuries unit, but we have these people on a different track for healthcare. Now, there's a lot of drilling down to what that actually means, but there is a separate contract to look after these people that I cannot access. If I won't say feel ill, I can't think how, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If I feel ill, I cannot access the level of service that these people seem to access. It's so wrong, and that's why the people in the meeting were particularly upset.
And why are you unable to actually see the detail of this? Why is it so clandestine?
Well, we are asking. All I can say is we keep asking the questions. I've got questions in council next week specifically about the checks, and it's got a long way to run this.
Mm-hmm.
We are being stonewalled. The residents are being stonewalled, and unfortunately, it falls to my 8 councillors out of 63. The Green councillors not interested, more interested in dropping off a compendium of games to entertain these people than actually standing up for the residents in the area. It falls to 8 councillors out of 63 to say the residents need to be heard. These are the questions. Where do we find the answers? MP's been absent, council's been absent, and the rest of the council have been absent. It's outrageous.
And just finally, some of the viewers there are saying, well, hang on, why do people not contact their MPs? Well, actually, if I've got this right, the MP has been contacted. Connor is his name, Connor Rand, and he has faced intense backlash. And apparently he said, well, it's above his pay grade.
Well, I can only, I didn't hear that, but if people have heard him say that, I'm not defending that at all. But what I would say is when we had a different MP last year, when the Conservatives were in control of the government and did exactly the same thing, we also were outraged, called a public meeting. The MP stood up, got hold of the immigration minister, had the arguments in government, and we ended up with the families, as we described earlier, not 300 males, frightening everybody.
Yeah.
So it's a different reaction from a Conservative MP arguing with a Conservative government. We've got a Labour MP who seems unable to argue with his own government, and a Labour council who won't argue with it, and locally a Labour mayor quite happy to throw Altrincham under the bus.
Absolutely. Their head, it seems to be up their bottom and not on their job. But anyway, the final question that I have for you, Councillor Evans, is your party, the Conservative Party. Obviously, there was, during the long protracted leadership election, there was a lot of debate about the efficacy of the current setup that we're in legally. So leaving the ECHR, for example, was a big dispute. Would you like to see your party commit to that to ensure that your residents don't have to endure this, well, for what feels like the rest of eternity?
If that is what it takes to get people out, to get people controlled properly, to control the borders, to use a frequently used phrase, then that would have to be. But I cannot believe it's not possible to do that. You hear stories of the rest of Europe doing the Rwanda-style schemes and now moving towards that. Mm-hmm. We've just, the government came in, first thing it did, scrap the Rwanda scheme. You know what? The boat crossings have skyrocketed. And I can't see it ending without some level of deterrent. And that's all it was. It was a deterrent. We were getting there. It took so long, and that's what's difficult. And if it takes coming out of the EHCR, ECHR, whichever way around, if it takes that, then that's what it would have to be.
All right, Councillor Evans, thank you very much for your time today, and keep up exposing this, because I tell you what, you're not only doing your residents a real service here, I think you're actually doing the country a real service. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for highlighting it, and always give me a call if you want me on again. Thank you.
My friends, if you're still watching, thank you very much. And I've got a request for you. Thanks to viewers like you, Recent UK, we're on a roll. We're standing up to the woke brigade and championing British pride, especially for the next generation. We're one of the only voices out there that are actually targeting young Brits, seeking to wake them up from this lefty fog and reminding them of what it means to be British. And here's the deal. I want us to go further than that. I want to see Reasoned take on the mainstream left-wing media, a dominant culture here in Britain. We're aiming to expand with more presenters, with hard-hitting documentaries, with live events, with crash courses, the lot. But for that, we need you. We're picking one day to fundraise for this next level project, and that's where you at home come in. We're asking if you'd sign up to share our fundraiser link with your friends and networks on the big day itself. It's a small ask with the potential for a massive impact. Plus, the top fundraisers, you'll bag yourself exclusive goodies and a chance to meet some very special guests, VIPs. More importantly, you'll be standing with us, rallying young Brits to the values that make this country great, as much as the left try and destroy it. So if you're in, click the Google form in the description below, drop in your details, and I'll be in touch. Cheers very much. Let's make it happen together.